I am Aswathi and I am here to teach you English. First of all, I welcome you all for the first English class of this academic year. You all know the present situation of the world. The situation becomes worse day by day due to the threat of coronavirus. In this panic condition, it is not possible to come to you with regular classes. So, we the teachers are here with online classes. Dear children, use this opportunity, study well and enjoy your classes. Today, we are going to start our first lesson. The name of our first lesson is Sinbad Tells His Story. The story of Sinbad and his 7 fantastic voyages appears in the huge collection of stories, the book of 1001 Nights or Arabian Nights. Our first lesson, Sinbad Tells His Story, is one of the stories taken from that. Sinbad is the main character of the story. He was a famous sailor from Baghdad. In this story, he narrates his story to a poor porter, Sinbad, who expresses his discontentment with life. Sinbad overhears him and invites him to share a meal with him. Sinbad then tells his most interesting story about how he squandered his father's wealth and how he built up his riches once again. Watch the next video to know more about Sinbad and his life. That is not the exact story in our textbook, but you will get some more idea about Sinbad after watching that. Watch it.
The story of Sindbad the sailor. The story tells us that Sindbad was a famous sailor who lived in Baghdad. He was honest, generous and brave. He had many adventures on each of his voyages. He never lost heart and hope in dangerous situations. He overcame great dangers and returned home safely from each of his voyages. Here's the story of his first voyage. The first voyage. Sindbad set sail with a company of merchants on a big ship. From time to time, they stopped at various ports. There, they sold their merchandise and bought new things to trade. Merchandise are goods or things for sale. Trade means to sell. One day, when the ship was sailing smoothly across the sea, they spotted a small island at a distance. Island is a land surrounded by water from all sides. They had not seen land for many days and felt both surprised and happy to see the island. They sailed close to the island. The captain of the ship allowed them to go there for a picnic. Everyone was excited. Excited means very happy. On the island, they strolled around, sang and danced. Strolled means walked here and there. Some people began to wash clothes. Some lit fires to cook meals. Soon, a breeze sprang up. Sprang up means began to blow suddenly. The fires began to blaze. Blaze means burn strongly. Suddenly, the land began to shake and move. With a shock, the picnic party realized that the island was not an island at all. They were on the back of a huge sea monster and it had started moving. People began to scream. They left their pots and pans, their clothes, both washed and unwashed, and rushed back to the ship. The captain ordered his men to set sail immediately in order to move away from the monster. The sea monster plunged deep into the sea. Plunged means jump or dive quickly and energetically. Many of the people managed to climb aboard the ship, but many sank into the sea with the so-called island. Aboard means to catch ship. Sindbad alone did not drown in the sea, but he could not reach the ship. He saw it sailing far, far away. He was now at the mercy of the waves, being tossed here and there. He clung to a piece of wood and somehow managed to keep afloat. Afloat means floating. He spent the night alone at sea. When the next day dawned, Sindbad was happy to see that he had floated near an island, a real big island. He could see hills and woods and trees at a distance. Though he was extremely tired, he swam to the shore with all the strength that he could muster. All the strength that he could muster means all the strength that he could use at that time. Exhausted and hungry, he lay on the sand for some time. Then again he made an effort and began to walk inland towards the shady fruit trees that he could see at a distance. Inland means towards an area of land away from the seashore. Luckily, this was the time when the king of that island sent his horses to the seashore with the grooms. Grooms are persons who take care of horses. The grooms saw Sindbad and gave him food and drink. Then they took him to the king. The king was impressed by the way Sindbad told him about what had happened. He asked Sindbad to stay with him and work as an officer of the king at the port. Sindbad stayed there for a few days, learning a lot from the king and the people of the island, and in turn telling them about the other cities and ports that he had visited. At the port, Sindbad often made inquiries about any ships coming from or going to Baghdad, but no such ship ever came to that port. Then one day, a ship arrived at the island with a lot of merchandise. Sindbad was at the quay when the cargo from that ship was being unloaded. Quay is a platform in a port or harbour where boats come to load or unload their luggage. Cargo means goods carried on a ship. He was surprised to see that his own name was marked on some of the boxes. Then he went to see the captain of the ship. At first, the captain could not believe that it was the same Sindbad that they had seen drowning in the sea. But when Sindbad spoke to him face to face, he recognized him. He was overjoyed to see Sindbad alive. He gave him back all his merchandise. From the goods that he thus got back, Sindbad presented the most valuable items to the king of the island, saying, "Please accept this, Your Majesty. You have been very kind and very generous to me." The king was pleased. He too gave Sindbad many valuable gifts when Sindbad left the island with a merchant ship. If you want to know what happened to Sindbad afterwards, you have to read the rest of the story of his fantastic voyages.
Do you enjoy the story? Now let us move to the textbook. Listen carefully.
Lesson 1. Sinbad tells his story. In ancient Baghdad, there lived a rich and famous sailor named Sinbad. Sinbad had gone on many wonderful voyages in his days as a trader and seafarer. Voyages, journeys by sea. Seafarer, sailor. One day, a poor potter named Hindbad was walking past Sinbad's house with a very heavy sack on his back. The smell of good food and the sound of music and laughter made Hindbad burn with anger. Laughter, the sound of laughing. Burn with anger, become very angry. Here, he was struggling for even one meal a day, and there were people like Sinbad who didn't have to do any work at all. Struggle, to try very hard to do something. Hindbad sat down on the pavement outside Sinbad's house to rest for a while. Pavement, a flat path at the side of a road for people to walk. Why is he rich and why am I poor and hungry? Said Hindbad. Is he better than me? Sinbad happened to overhear Hindbad's words. He invited the poor man in, gave him a splendid meal, and told him his story. Happened to overhear, here by chance. Splendid, great, or excellent. Here is what he said. I was born wealthy. As a child, I was lazy and spoiled. Suddenly, my parents died. In a very short time, I had used up my father's hard-earned money. Spoiled, ruin. I was forced to sell everything I owned to repay my debts. Very soon, I was a pauper. I then decided to become a trader to earn back my lost wealth. Debts, money that we owe. Pauper, a very poor person. So I set sail on a ship going to the East Indies. We stopped in different lands and bought and sold goods of various kinds. Set sail, started a journey. East Indies, the way India was referred to by people in Europe. After a particularly long journey, we came upon a smooth island. The cool rock surface tempted us to get off board. Our captain gave us permission to do so. Island, a piece of land that is completely surrounded by water. Tempted, attracted, off board, off the ship. Captain, the person in command of a ship. As a few of us relaxed on this massive treeless rock, suddenly the island began to move. It was then that we realized that we were not on an island but on the back of a sleeping whale that had just woken up. Massive, very large or heavy. A couple of my mates who were close to the ship ran fast and went back to the ship. I was not so lucky. Mates, companions. With a violent flip of its tail, the whale dived underwater. I was flung off the whale's back, flew up into the air and landed with a terrific splash. Flip, quick movement. Flung is the past form of fling, means to throw something or somebody with force. Miraculously, I found a piece of wood and clung onto it for dear life. I shouted for help, but no one heard me. Miraculously, with great luck, clung on, held on. To my horror, the ship set sail. No one had realized that I was missing. After several hours of being tossed about by the waves, I passed out. Tossed about. Thrown about up and down by the waves. Passed out, became unconscious. When I came to, I realized that I had been swept to the sandy shores of some unknown island. Though I was very tired, I started looking around. Came to, became conscious again. I found some herbs and fruits and ate them hungrily. Walking about, I saw some men on horseback. I told them my story. They said that I was in the kingdom of Mirage. We will take you to our king, they said. The king Mirage met me. He was a good man. When I told him my story, he said that Mirage was a very busy port. So it would be easy for me to find my way back home. I was happy to hear this. I went back to the harbor. The place was bustling with activity. People were busy loading and unloading ships. A lot of money was being exchanged. This reminded me of everything I had lost. Harbor, place of shelter for ships. Bustling, busy. I wandered about through the harbor when something familiar caught my eye. On looking closely, I found that there were boxes of goods with my name on them. This meant that my ship was here. Caught my eye, attracted me. I started looking for members of the crew. Standing right there, barking out instructions, was my captain. Crew, group of people who work on a ship. Barking out instructions, calling out orders loudly and rudely. I ran towards him and hugged him. I told him what happened, and my captain was overjoyed that I was alive. Overjoyed, extremely happy. I now had all my goods back with me. I could continue my trade. I sold all my goods for a large profit. I kept the most valuable seals I had and presented them to the king of Mirage. Profit, extra money. In return, he gave me a bag of gems and I became richer. We sailed back home and I started life again with my newfound riches. Sinbad stopped the story here. He told Hindbad to come back the next day, promising to tell him about the dangers he faced in his next voyage.
Have you all listened the lesson? I hope the story is clear to you. Now, let us have a look at the new words from this lesson. Before that, I would like to tell you something about our notebook. For English, we need a single-lined notebook and a four-lined notebook. Today itself, all should write all the new words very neatly in the notebook. Do not forget to write date before you start. Write date in the first line outside the margin. Then, in the middle of the first line, write Lesson 1. In the next line, write the name of the lesson. What is the name of our lesson? Sinbad tells his story. The next line, write the side heading, new words. Then write the new words very neatly.
New words. Voyages. Seafarer. Laughter. Pavement. Splendid. Debts. Pauper. Voyages. Seafarer. Laughter. Pavement. Splendid. Debts. Pauper. When we pronounce the word debts, letter B is silent. Massive, flip, flung, miraculously, harbor, bustling, crew, overjoyed, profit, gems. Massive, flip, flung, miraculously, harbor. When we pronounce the word harbor, letter R is silent. Bustling, crew, overjoyed, profit, and gems. Dear students, try to answer the following questions and write down the answers in the back side of your English notebook. Who was Sinbad? What did Sinbad complain about? Why did Sinbad decide to become a trader? Where did the crew of the ship relax? What was the reaction of the crew when Sinbad found his ship? What did Sinbad do with the goods in the ship?
Today, you have listened the story of Sinbad and studied the new words. After this class, all should write the new words 5 times in your rough notebook and study. Write the notes neatly. Then we will discuss the answers of the questions which I have given in the next class. See you in the next class. Take care. Bye.